Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really controversial, incredibly provocative essay by author Guy Lakeman. The piece is titled, Safety of AI is Garbage. And, whether you find yourself nodding along with his underlying philosophies or just completely rejecting them outright, his arguments provide this absolutely fascinating window into the current friction between emerging technologies, shifting geopolitical landscapes, and our historical trust in institutions. We're going to deconstruct this sprawling, fiercely opinionated text to understand exactly what Lakeman is arguing. And honestly, I have to admit, I'm genuinely curious to see how he builds this entire case.
To truly understand this essay, we really have to start with the sheer intensity of its central thesis. Lakeman kicks things off with this completely unvarnished statement. Safety of AI is garbage. Fools are concerned about AI safety. When the problem is not AI, it is their ignorance. I mean, wow. He doesn't hold back at all. Right out of the gate, he establishes this super aggressive anti-establishment tone. He really wants to jolt the reader, instantly framing the entire mainstream conversation around artificial intelligence safeguards as fundamentally misguided and, honestly, even naive.
Now, you might be thinking AI safety is all about preventing rogue robots or controlling superintelligence, right? Well, Lakeman argues that our modern obsession with it is essentially just a massive smokescreen. The core premise of his entire essay is that the technology itself isn't the threat. Instead, he points the finger squarely at systemic human failure, specifically the historical ignorance and greed of what he describes as elite institutions and governments. According to Lakeman, focusing on the potential dangers of artificial intelligence is quite literally just a distraction from the disasters that human leadership has already caused. Okay, let's dive right into this. To map out his argument, we're going to cover 5 key areas. First, a provocative AI thesis. Second, distractions from real disasters. Third, the BRICS plus paradigm. Fourth, open ownership AI adoption. And finally, evolving with intelligence. Section 1, a provocative AI thesis, the pandemic state of AI.
So before Lakeman really gets into his broader historical grievances, he establishes his view of the current technological landscape. He asserts that AI isn't some distant future threat we can somehow neatly contain. Instead, he frames it as a viral phenomenon. It's something that has already dispersed globally across millions of users, phones, and corporate networks through open ownership large language models. Basically, the proverbial wolves have already jumped the fence. And notice how quickly he pivots from a pure software discussion to a massive societal one. He claims the very people shouting the loudest about AI protection are the exact same types of authorities who totally ignored consumer safety back in the 1950s, allowing television advertising to basically promote lies and visual deception. He uses this historical framing to set the stage for a much broader, blistering critique of authority. Section 2. Distractions from real disasters. Systemic human failures.
Having established that he totally distrusts the authorities calling for AI safety, Lakeman proceeds to outline what he considers to be the actual tangible disasters caused by government and corporate mismanagement over the decades. He points to the visual deception of 1950s advertising. He makes the highly controversial claim that climate change is driven by corporate heat islands and not CO2. He harshly criticizes global COVID-19 lockdowns, arguing governments imposed crushing economic restrictions on the public while just leaving global trade routes completely untreated. He points to war profiteering, claiming high-tech killing machines only serve government cronies. And finally, he cites 1980s broadcast deregulation as the catalyst for widespread deception in modern politics and economics. From his perspective, these are the real systemic failures we should be regulating, definitely not AI.
Section 3. The BRICS plus paradigm. A global shift.
After outlining his view of Western institutional failure, Lakeman takes a sharp geopolitical turn. He characterizes Western systems as antiquated fools who are trying to tax nonsense, literally comparing AI safety regulations to the carbon taxes he previously dismissed. On the flip side, he highly praises BRICS+. He claims over 50% of the world has already shifted toward what he calls an intelligent society, one that embraces community support and non-individualist policies. In Lakeman's rather stark assessment, the world has already changed. The community-focused nations have won the whole shebang, and what he calls the anal elite have definitively lost.
Section 4. Open ownership AI adoption.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is the shift from purely political rhetoric to some really hard technological trends. He moves straight from philosophy into procurement to prove his point that the global power dynamic is already shifting right under our feet. He provides this concrete list of major Western companies that he says are currently utilizing open ownership cyber intelligence. He argues that to maintain top-tier performance, global tech giants are actually bypassing traditional Western AI models entirely and integrating these open ownership alternatives directly into their enterprise infrastructures. To emphasize the sheer scale of this shift, Lakeman asserts a massive statistic. He estimates that an incredible 80% of U.S. AI startups are now incorporating open ownership AI into their systems. Now, whether or not that exact figure is universally agreed upon in the industry, within the context of his argument, it serves as undeniable proof that the market is speaking way louder than the regulators. He even maps out specific adoptions to prove it. We're talking about massive companies. Coinbase, Shopify, Uber Eats, and Siemens are all scaling with open ownership models like Qwen and DeepSeek. Even Microsoft is noted as actively testing DeepSeek v4. By listing these out, Lakeman concretely illustrates that Western corporate integration of Chinese and open ownership models isn't just a fringe idea, it's already widespread and deeply, deeply entrenched.
The major takeaway Lakeman wants you to have from this data is actually pretty profound. AI is no longer just some technological marvel to be contained. At this point, it is a straightforward procurement decision. Corporations are simply looking for the best, most efficient tools to get the job done. Lakeman concludes that this massive, widespread adoption feeds into a cycle of much faster iterations, creating incredibly strong, totally viable alternatives to traditional Western models. The technology is evolving through open use, regardless of what any regulators say.
Section 5. Evolving with intelligence. Adapting to change.
In the closing of his essay, Lakeman steps away from the corporate data to deliver a really stark, almost Darwinian warning. He writes, "Those who do not go extinct are those who adapt to change. Those who don't are a disruptive drain on the community." Lakeman asserts that intelligence has always impacted human evolution, and this AI revolution, well, it's absolutely no different. He ends the essay by noting that, strangely, some folks in very high positions of authority are incredibly reluctant to learn. His entire essay is essentially presented as a harsh, necessary lesson meant to correct that reluctance.
So what does this all mean for us? Which leaves us with the ultimate question posed by Lakeman's text. As open ownership AI continues to rapidly iterate and spread like wildfire into our global infrastructure, will society, and specifically its leadership, adapt to this new landscape of intelligence? Or will those who resist it simply become a disruptive drain clinging to what Lakeman views as the illusions of safety and antiquated systems? It's a highly provocative perspective that really challenges us to re-examine where the true risks of our technological future actually lie. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive in The Explainer, and remember to keep questioning what you learn.